Normally, I can record without any notes, but for some odd reason, I think I need notes today. So I'm going to be looking between my notes and the camera, though I never look at the camera. That's one of my huge pet peeves. I always look at my own eyes, which makes it very weird when I'm making a very valid point. So I look really crazy. I just cannot stare at oh Lord, it's just crazy. Perhaps I could do it if they didn't have the opportunity for us to see ourselves, but I've always had a difficult time doing what you call the normalities of world functionality. Anything that everyone else can do, I always seem to have the hardest time doing it. And anything that people can't do, it always seems so easy for me to do. It's almost like as if I am world enemy number one. you know? But, anyways, I want to talk about three topics. And the first one is going to be dancing. The second one is labor. And the last one is symbology and a symbolic message that I received in life that is very, very amazing. So, first, dancing is the elimination of the brain while still having the body. Unlike sleeping, which is a brain without the body, and that's not so bad, which means that dancing is the absence of having a brain, but you still have a body. And is it easier to say that without thinking properly, you committed a crime, or thinking improperly is to not have a brain? If there is no room to think improperly, then that's the absence of a brain. Anything that's not used the way it's supposed to be used is the absence of it. If you use a knife to stab someone, it wasn't a kitchen tool. It's evidence for the police and the detectives of the crime, which is it's never going to be used to slice a tomato ever again. I'll put it like that because it's too busy being something else. So it's no longer a knife. It's just not even existing really. That's how the brain is. If the brain is not doing, I have two hands to put the earth together and maintain it. I have two legs to move from point A to B to redeem comfort without afflicting myself or others. That's all we have this stuff for. If you ever use your two hands or your two legs for anything other than that, in so many ways, you betray the brain of our entire projection, and in so many ways, you stole the body. Because if you're using your brain incorrectly, the body is being stolen. Because the only way the body could be a functional connectivity of contributive world duties is that the brain was functional, sober minded, and aware of everyone's reason for using their body. And everyone's reason for using their body is to protect their feelings and preserve their appearance. If at any time you use your brain and your body that dissolves that reality, in so many ways you assault everyone. Okay? There's a lot of people that do this, so it's very popular, which means a lot of people establish unnecessary occupations, false education, bad politics, and overall entertainment as precedent, and the contents of the entertainment are destructive, not necessarily environmental education or scientific application, which we have too little information about that to take up airwaves for entertainment. Entertainment is not bad per se when it's meaningful, but dancing, you could do that by yourself. It's for you. If anyone ever witnesses you dancing, all you're telling people is, I have a body without a brain. Because you cannot use your brain and dance at the same time. You cannot be doing a count 8 step and you dance and twerking with your booty cheeks and be saying, okay, I have to respect people's flesh. I have to respect people's appearance. How are we going to make it through this existence? You can't twerk. You can't be doing a booty shake at the same time and thinking about the scientific laws of equity. People laugh because y'all like sexual pornography, but at the end of the day, nobody has ever danced and used their brain at the same time. Nobody. They've counted and they've been oblivious, which means for moments at a time they were sitting under a bridge with their brain. Their brain was just staring in outer space. They weren't doing anything that was scientifically moving us forward. They weren't doing philosophy, which is a standstill thought, and they weren't doing science, which is a moving thought. As in how to get us from science keeps us standing still in comfort. Philosophy moves us forward through evolution, but they go back and forth. Between philosophy and science, there's not anything else to do with your brain. When you're lying in your bed, you do philosophy. When you're up and about, you do science. When you're up and about, you do science. When you're lying in your bed, you do philosophy. When you're dancing, you're sitting under a bridge homeless. You're a third world poverty reproducer. You're old master slave on a plantation. You know? I say this because there's a celebrity and she thought she was going to dance for all of eternity, and that she is going to do. But not the way that she sees that it appears on earth. It's just the meaning of it. She chose to not have a brain. She chose to spend thousands of hours being oblivious, using numbers for counting footsteps and things of that sort, but not for balancing out the inequities of our existence. Not for figuring out that You can't tell a person to be in a place that's dangerous and not provide the comfort. That's a mathematical, seesaw riddle as well. Math is not just counting and numbers and rhythm. Math is also balance. Balance that requires no numbers, it just requires common sense. That is also mathematics. But I just thought I should share that. People didn't know. If you ever choose to dance, all you're saying is, I want the body, but I don't want the brain. That's all you're saying. And I want my brain, not to suffer. I just didn't need the cadaver. See, I don't need a vagina. I don't need tarnishable flesh. I don't need hairy, body parts. I don't need musty underarms. But I don't mind being intelligent. I've found more happiness in the intelligence of my mind than in any part of my body. And so people who dance are just saying that their bodies are more important than their brains. They're just saying, I want the body, but I don't want the brain. So I'm gonna zap out of the brain. I'm just gonna move the body, and I'm not gonna think philosophy, and I'm not gonna think science for a while. I'm just gonna move. I'm gonna take these arms that are scarce on the earth, that actually tarnish and break, and people be wishing that they still had them to take care of themselves. I'm gonna take it. I'm just gonna throw it around, and do all kinds of stuff like, I'm gonna do all kinds of stuff. I'm gonna do. And while I'm doing this with it, other people are gonna be sitting in wheelchairs, and they're gonna be having people take care of them with their hands, and they're gonna be people whose hands are tied to employment, and people who can't move with their hands and get what they want because they don't have the money. But I'm gonna be using mine to do like this. And while I'm doing like that with my arms, I'm just gonna be like whatever, you know. I just want to show off what I can do. And so that's just something, that's just food for thought. I mean, make of it with you what you will. Then second, I want to talk about labor. Labor is an agreement to need strength in the allowance of fatal pains, a possibility for fatal pains. Therefore, provision of strength guaranteed is necessary unless crime is what you want. A mandatory comfort to work is important to provide vital without fatal, which means that anyone who, like, for instance, I was trying to figure out how to punish all of humanity, or rather, how to charge all of humanity with crime, because I feel like it takes more than one person for any one of us to suffer. I feel like it takes I think all of humanity does wrong to one person. I don't think one person, how y'all arrest one person and say, this person's an outlaw or this person's bad for society. Y'all say there's one criminal to all of society. No, I believe the other way. I believe the whole human race did crime to one person. I don't believe one person harmed the whole human race. I believe that anyone who's going through pain, I believe the whole human race is responsible for it. And I want the whole human race to suffer for all of eternity. That's how I believe. I don't believe that one person should be arrested for a lifetime because they stole from one person, but they didn't affect nobody else. I believe that if one person goes through pain, that everyone on the earth should go to hell for all of eternity. So I was trying to figure out how to send everybody to hell, and I came up with something that's quite interesting. And what it is the only way to make a living on this earth is labor. That's the only way. There's no other way. As a matter of fact, labor turns into be life. It doesn't mean life is good. Labor is the life of this planet, which means when the R becomes an F and the vowel swivel, B standing alone is be life. Labor, be life. A laborious life is assault and battery. I didn't say life is not good or bad. It's just the life of planet Earth is labor. That's the life we have here, right? But labor requires strength, which means anyone who agrees to be on Earth is just someone who's agreeing to labor. Labor is assault and battery. It's also slavery. A lot of people say, you need to get a job, girl. Yeah, you got to get a job. And like that, sometimes you got to work 2 and 3 jobs just to get what you want out of life. That's how life is. I'm about this life. Okay, first of all, you mean to tell me that without us choosing to be here, we are forced to be on Earth. And then people find out that they're okay with it. What if I said I'm not okay with it? And then you say, well, commit suicide, bitch. I'm like, I didn't cut the umbilical cord. You do it. You take my life like you took it from my mother's womb. The same way you were big, bad, and bold enough to take it out of her womb, be big, bad, and bold enough to take it out of the world. I'm not big, bad, and bold enough to take a person out of the womb. I'm not big, bad, and bold enough to sever the umbilical cord. I'm not big, bad, and bold enough to make baby products. I'm not big, bad, and bold enough to put Webster Dictionary inside of a kindergarten. I'm not big, bad, and bold enough to force someone to pay a price for a life in which they decompose and die. Since you're big, bad, and bold enough to do that, won't you be big, bad, and bold enough to poison me painlessly and take me out of your world, since I don't want to pay bills or labor as a life? You didn't ask my permission. But labor is an agreement to have strength in your existence. So let me ask you a question. How many of y'all expect people to work a job, but you don't expect them to be guaranteed comfort. Y'all, comfort is necessary for a job. Jobs are not a place where you have to feel pain. As a matter of fact, your job is where you guarantee comfort, because comfort and strength go hand in hand. All we're doing is making resources for people to use to perpetually rest. Why do y'all want us to be in pain and stressed out? Why is a job a stressful place? If labor be life of earth, then labor should be comfortable to do. If that was the only way to provide, it's like breathing. Breathing is the only way to live, as in the origin of it. So it's we don't even feel ourselves breathe. Human beings breathe. They don't even count their breaths. Motherfucker, we remember the days we work. Just remembering your work schedule is incorrect. That's like me remembering to breathe. I never remember to breathe. I just do it. As soon as I wake up, I start breathing. I don't even know I'm breathing. That's the last thing motherfucker, I do everything conscientiously, but I forget that I'm breathing. You know? But I say this because labor is not supposed to be felt. We're supposed to do that conscientiously and, well, subconsciously. And we're supposed to just do it. Like, a person's supposed to wake up and just go to a production center and start producing 50,000 of one item, and then walk out, clean up their little area, and go back to their sci-fi capsule and do whatever they want with their days. And then 30 days later, they do it again at another production center because they were at home studying the channel that they show that production center on TV. And they just watched it for a long time. I was like, I want to go there and do that. Production centers are supposed to be like Disney World. They're supposed to be advertised all across the world on television. We're supposed to be watching over production centers where people already are and what inspired them. And then we're supposed to choose which production center we want to go to, whether we fly out to go somewhere and, just produce there. And then distribution centers are open 24/7. Everything's open 24/7. There's no locks. And all we're doing is, it's hard to explain this way, but there was never supposed to be. Labor is not slavery. Labor is work that reveals fatal incident, which means labor is also fatal. Fatal means, and fatal, it's like this. Labor is necessary because of fatal reality. But the agreement to labor is also a secret agreement that things could go wrong. But nobody knows this, which means labor is an opportunity for things to go wrong. Because if people don't labor, then things fall apart. So labor is the sustaining of something in which if one does not labor, it falls apart. And the reason why labor was important is because it will be fatal, either in observable damages or felt damages. So anyone who wants to labor is just someone who doesn't mind things going wrong eventually. And I just wanted to put that bug in y'all's ear. I have so much more to say about it, and hopefully after watching this video several times, other things will be sparked to mind. But the initial state of wanting you all to suffer eternally is the only way to be on this planet is to labor. Labor be life. Therefore, anyone who chose to labor, anyone who's excited about getting a paycheck, anyone who wants to see other people work hard, anyone who thinks it's right to work is just someone who chose to be on planet Earth. And the choice to be on planet Earth is sin, and the consequence is not just these wages. The wages of sin is death, but what is death? Being in a painful situation and not dying in it. This is like the first death. If you remember, Jesus said the first death, but the second death is the real one. This is the agreement. This is like the paperwork. You know how when you sign a piece of paper, that would be the first agreement, but the second agreement is to actually do the deed. And you feel it. When you sign a piece of paper, you don't feel it. That's how y'all know it's a piece of paper, because y'all don't feel it. This is the first death, the knowledge of it. But when y'all have signed this piece of paper, then of course the second one occurs. Some people was like, oh, well, you signed it. You signed your signature on earth. You said your signature was here too. And I'm like, whatever. I'm not choosing death. I wouldn't. Last but not least, I want to talk about something. There's this film called Count of Monte Cristo. And in that film, everybody who's seen that movie, it's an old film, as in it's something that was put out, it was written during probably the Dark Ages. I don't remember. It was written by Dumas, I suppose. I don't know who wrote it, actually. I'm lying. It's an old fable. And the Count of Monte Cristo is just like an Abel and Cain story, a Judas and Jesus story, a King Saul and David story, a Jacob and Esau story. It's Robin Hood and Prince Edward or whatever. Everything is a good and bad guy. But what I want to talk about is Count Diego. He did something wrong to, I can't remember what his name was before he became the Count, and he was locked behind Chateau d'If walls. When he got out, he did vengeance of great proportions. I call it, well, never mind. He did vengeance. And the last person he got vengeance on was Count Diego, the one who initiated the whole situation of his, imprisonment. wrongly and accused him of a political crime. That was just absolutely absurd. Now, is it easier to say that the Count of Monte Cristo would have never started someone like Count Diego being in his life? He would have never started someone like that existing because of the pain that it caused. But the proof that he didn't let him shoot himself at the very end of the movie in the carriage means he would never let him die. The Count of Monte Cristo reveals something, and the riddle is there are some people you'd never start existing, but once you find them, you don't want them to ever dissipate. You never want their soul to ever dissipate into the darkness. You never want to let them go. You want to make sure that they go to hell, is what I'm trying to say, which means there are some people you'd never start existing, but once you find them, you want them to burn in hell for all of eternity. Those people are two celebrities and entrepreneurs, all stereotypical black women, and anyone who supports money as a way to make a living. And this is just food for thought. There are some people you'd never start existing. You'd never start someone telling you to stand on your legs 8 hours a day, existing in your existence. But you know what? You wouldn't let them pull the trigger in the carriage at the end of the Count of Monte Cristo, because you'd be damned to let them. You think I'd make it that easy? I'd never let you die. I want you to suffer.